Everyone, it's Shakira. Today I will be presenting my news story. My sources for this presentation include CBC, The Washington Post, and The Guardian. Over the span of one night, Canada experienced its worst act of violence the country has seen in 30 years. The attack was believed to be Canada's deadliest shooting since a gunman fatally shot 14 women at Montreal's École Polytechnique in 1989. From the night of April 18 to the morning of April 19, 2020, a mass shooting took place in Nova Scotia. RCMP identified the gunman as Gabriel Wortman, a white male 51 years of age. His rampage began late Saturday night in the small community of Porter Peak, Nova Scotia. He led police on a chase Sunday morning all along one of the province's busiest highways. The chase ended near a gas station about 35 kilometers north of Halifax in Onfield, Nova Scotia, around 11:40 a.m. According to a release, the suspect was involved in a serious criminal event in Shubin-Kadi, Nova Scotia. A confrontation with the police followed in Onfield, resulting in officers discharging their firearms. The suspect was then found dead at the scene. At least 17 people were killed during a gunman's bloody 12-hour rampage through several Nova Scotia communities, and police warn there may be more victims. Constable Heidi Stevenson, a 23-year-old veteran of the RCMP, has been identified as the police member who was killed responding to the active shooter incident. Many are wondering why he did it. It may be too early to conclude his motive, however, we can make some speculations. On Sunday morning, police had warned that the gunman was driving a vehicle that looked like a RCMP vehicle at one point, and was wearing a RCMP uniform. They said that he was not a member of the RCMP. The fact that this individual had a uniform and a police car at his disposal certainly speaks to it not being a random act, RCMP Chief Superintendent Chris Leather said. Later, Leather said that the vehicle was believed to be a mock-up made to look like an RCMP cruiser. The investigation involves crime scenes at multiple sites across the province, including structures that were on fire, he said. One local resident said she had to come across 2 burning police vehicles while out driving on Sunday morning. One man said he saw at least 3 separate fires. One of the goals in this course is to investigate complex issues and their impacts on communities around the world. This shooting heavily impacted the community of Porter Peak, Nova Scotia. Many residents of the town reported not being able to sleep and being on edge after the event occurred. They are shocked that such a deadly shooting took place in their small, peaceful community. I imagine that it will be very hard for many to emotionally recover from this. This shooting probably changed a lot of their views on life. I actually decided to do this news article when I was scrolling through my Instagram feed. A 6Buzz post regarding the shooting caught my eye. What I found interesting was the comment section. Majority of the comment section consisted of people calling the shooter a terrorist. Many were complaining that it's unfair that a white male shooter is never called a terrorist. However, if it were a colored person in his position, they would be. Do you think it's unfair and racist that he is not being presented as a terrorist in the media? Why? In my opinion, I think that it's considered fair for the media to not address him as a terrorist yet. A terrorist, by definition, is a person who uses unlawful violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. While he has used unlawful violence and intimidation against civilians, his political aims are being investigated currently. I believe his aim wasn't political and that he was just a violent criminal. However, I do believe many media outlets are racist, like this one. The photo of him presented is of him smiling into the camera. This is not the case for many criminals of color. White criminals in the media are seen as mentally ill and are given sympathy, whereas colored people are seen as evil and dangerous. Mass shootings are relatively rare in Canada, which has far tighter gun control laws than the United States. More than 2.1 million people have been issued licenses to possess and acquire firearms in Canada, according to the most recent RCMP data. In Nova Scotia, which has a population of more than 923,000 people, there were about 76,000 such licenses issued. During the election campaign last year, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau pledged to ban and buy back legally purchased military-style assault rifles. He also said he would work with Canada's provinces and territories to give municipalities the ability to further restrict or ban handguns. Why do you think that despite these bans placed, there are still mass shootings happening? What else can be done to prevent these shootings? To answer this question, over 90% of public mass shootings take place in gun-free zones, where civilians are not permitted to carry firearms. This means that despite the laws placed, people are finding ways to access firearms. According to a study, 60% of mass public shooters have been diagnosed with a mental disorder or have demonstrated signs of serious mental illness prior to the attack. I think that it's important to establish a culture of gun safety and to reduce firearm access to youth and individuals who are at risk of harming themselves or others. Licenses should only be given out after an extensive check that involves mental stability. A reason many have access to guns without a license is because arms are coming in illegally from the United States through the black market. The government needs to take preventive measures to restrict the ways people are able to access these military assault guns. One possible step could be to have stricter border control. In Canada, many can actually convert a normal gun to an automatic assault type. These manufacturing facilities need to be identified and shut down. Third, more intensified intelligence needs to be applied to find out these people that have such illegal assault type weapons and bring them to justice. As I mentioned before, Canada has far tighter gun control laws than the United States. Although this shooting was a tragedy, it is the deadliest we've seen in 3 decades. The same cannot be said about the United States. I read an article about Americans celebrating their first March since 2002 without a school shooting happening. That, however, turned out to be false, as they had 8 school shootings in the month of March. The United States clearly has an issue controlling these shootings. Their gun laws don't help the crisis either. Many Americans argue that they should be allowed to own guns for self-defense. My question is, how often are these guns actually used for self-defense? Do you think that gun laws in the United States are the reason why so many shootings are taking place? To answer this question, yes, I do believe gun laws play a part, but so do other factors. The main problem is that anybody without any strict background check can buy all types of guns, including guns that in other countries only military forces can use, for example, assault rifles. In the States, anyone can buy any gun without any strict background check. This is the main problem of shooting violence that happens so often every year. Another problem is that in the United States, the gun shops have a very powerful association called the NRA. The NRA has significant influence in national politics. They provide huge amounts of money as contribution to the political party. As a result, the main political party or government party has a soft corner on them when a demand is coming from the public to make strict gun control. Because of this soft corner, so far all efforts have been in vain. In the recent past, there was a huge demand from all over the states, especially from young students, to control and modify the sale of guns. But all the president assured was that he would take some steps. It was only done to calm people down as a political assurance. Due to poor gun control laws, the mentally ill and extremist groups can own automating guns that can be used for huge massacres as seen in recent years. That is my presentation. Thank you for listening.